For Pacifica Radio, I'm Christina Onnested. Israeli forces have raided the Al-Shifa hospital where hundreds of patients and thousands of displaced people are holed up, many unable to leave. Mohammed Zakut is director of hospitals in Gaza. He says people are being forced to flee.
Now in Al-Shifa hospital, we have 650 patients. We have 22 patients in the ICU. We have 36 neonatal ICU. So we announce very clearly, it is a civilian hospital. There is no any member of Hamas in Shifa hospital. There is no any military activity in Shifa. There is anything happened when they enter the hospital. All what happened, it is around the hospital, but inside the hospital, all of the people in the hospital are civilians. The army now is attacked all the Department of Radiology and Cardiac Cath, and he is staying inside the hospital.
The death toll in Gaza has topped 11,200. The World Health Organization Tuesday blasted attacks on hospitals and implored for a ceasefire. Margaret Harris is spokesperson for the WHO.
We've got so much infrastructural damage. We've got a lack of clean water. We've got people very, very crowded together. I think in the UNRWA shelters, it's 9 times as many people as they were designed to contain. So again, this is another reason why we are begging for a ceasefire to happen now.
International humanitarian laws bar attacks on hospitals, but Israel claims Hamas has a command center at or below the hospital, making it a valid target. Meanwhile, tens of thousands of pro-Israeli Jews and supporters rallied at the U.S. Capitol Tuesday in support of its war on Gaza, including Senate leader Democrat Chuck Schumer, House Speaker Republican Mike Johnson, and white supremacist Pastor John Hagee, who's made anti-Semitic remarks and endorsed anti-Semitic conspiracies. He once said Hitler was sent by God to push Jews to return to Israel and blamed Jews for the Holocaust. In San Francisco, hundreds of protesters rallied outside a fundraiser event for President Joe Biden last night, demanding a ceasefire in Gaza. Ceasefire now! Ceasefire now! Biden is in San Francisco for the APEC, Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation Summit, to meet heads of some 20 other states, including China's President Xi Jinping. That meeting will happen later today. Topics will likely include the wars in Gaza and Ukraine. Activists had vowed to shut the gathering down, citing 1,200 corporate CEOs who are also converging, and concerns about climate change, labor, and human rights. The House of Representatives passed a stopgap funding measure to prevent a federal government shutdown Tuesday night ahead of a Thursday deadline. It would fund veteran affairs, education, and agriculture through January 19th, and defense, homeland security, and others until February 2nd. Christopher Martinez reports.
New Speaker Michael Johnson of Louisiana explained his novel approach, a plan to kick the can down the road on a budget continuing resolution.
We've gotten together. I believe there's going to be bipartisan agreement on that, to break it up and put it into January 19th for the first tranche of the bills, and February 2nd for the rest. And that will allow us to go through the deliberative process in good faith.
Putting a continuing resolution into 2 steps is unusual. The idea came from the conservative House Freedom Caucus. But in the House floor debate, Democrats met the idea with skepticism. Democrat Mary Gay Scanlon of Pennsylvania.
They've brought us to the brink of a shutdown twice in the last 2 months. Before that, they threatened to tank the global economy. And if their proposals pass this week, we'll likely face new shutdown threats again in the new year.
In the end, all but 2 Democrats joined enough Republicans to provide the needed 2/3 majority, and the continuing resolution passed on a vote of 336 to 95. It goes next to the Senate, where Democratic Senate Leader Chuck Schumer says he and Republican Leader Mitch McConnell plan to pass the measure quickly. I'm Christopher Martinez.
A United Nations report blasts the United States record on human rights. Scott Baba reports.
Ashwini KP, the United Nations Special Rapporteur on Contemporary Forms of Racism, announced her findings of a 14-day fact-finding mission across the United States.
The United States of America is at a critical juncture in the fight against racism, racial discrimination, xenophobia, and related intolerance.
She found that not only is systemic racism still a problem in the United States, some progress on social justice is actually moving backwards.
I note with deep concern coordinated pushbacks against racial justice initiatives. Anti-racism efforts must be more effectively anchored in addressing the white supremacy, underlying power imbalances, and historical drivers of racism and racial discrimination.
I'm Scott Baba, Pacifica Radio, KPFA.
I'm Christina Onnestet, reporting for Pacifica Radio.